Bond. James Bond.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Did we just become best friends?
Yup! Sublime!
What keep using that word? I don't think it means what you think it means.
Tear me apart, Lisa!
But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of You Haven't Seen That, a movie discussion podcast where we introduce our friend Ben to movies he should have seen a long time ago. I'm your host, Amanda.
I'm Geoff.
And I'm Ben.
And today we are talking about A League of Their Own. And stick around until the end because we'll be discussing our 4 least favorite things about baseball.
That list is non-existent.
We did our favorites, right? Was that with a different movie?
That was with The Sandlot.
The Sandlot, yeah.
Okay.
So it feels appropriate that we do the other side of the coin, just like we did with water. Our favorite things and our least favorite things about water.
Baseball and water, the two things everybody needs in life.
Oh my gosh. A League of Their Own. As America's stock of athletic young men is depleted during World War II, a professional all-female baseball league springs up in the Midwest, funded by publicity-hungry candy maker Walter Harvey. Competitive sisters Dottie Hinson and Kit Keller spar with each other. Scout Ernie Capadino and grumpy has-been coach Jimmy Dugan on their way to fame. I don't think I read that correctly.
I was going to say that did not sound. That sounded not like a sentence.
It was definitely not a sentence. I was reading the Letterboxd summary, which is ultimately like the IMDb summary, and it went on a loop. So I apologize for that, everybody. This movie was released July 1st of 1992. The number one song in the country, "I'll Be There" by Mariah Carey.
Oh, nice.
The next one after that was "Baby Got Back" by Sir Mix-a-Lot. Fun fact.
Yes.
There wasn't really much notable news that I could find in terms of world news, births, deaths, things like that. So the only thing I found was that Shaquille O'Neal was drafted first overall in the NBA draft this year. So yay, Shaq, before he, the journey from then to the General commercials. Some things happened in between there. I don't know what. This movie was directed by Penny Marshall and stars Tom Hanks, Gina Davis, Lori Petty, Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, David Strathairn, John Lovitz, and Bill Pullman. With a $40 million budget, this movie grossed $132 million at the global box office. This debuted at number 2 behind Batman Returns on its third weekend. However, the very next week, it had a very small drop-off. It grew some nice buzz across audiences and jumped to number 1 for the weekend after that. So the very rare number 2 to number 1. It ended up finishing 7th at the domestic box office that year in 1992. So it was well received by critics with an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 69 on Metacritic. No notable awards for this movie. However, there have been some TV follow-ups and spin-offs around this, probably to tease your segment a little later, Ben. There was a short-run series on CBS in 1993 and a Prime Video series in 2022.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Well, this was kind of a first-time watch for all of us. So let's see. Ben, give us your history with this movie, if any.
Yeah. In 1992, that summer of 1992 was right before I entered kindergarten. So I was not too up with the movies, except I was very into Batman Returns. Not that I saw the movie, but I was very into it. And the commercials and the promos and all that. And not so much with A League of Their Own. So I feel like I knew a little bit about that story up for a while, but I never saw it. But then I did watch the Amazon series in 2022. So I watched that entire season, and it was renewed for a second season, but then that season got scrapped amidst the writer's strike. And so it never got a second season. But I did watch the whole first season, which after seeing the movie has some similarities and some differences. So I feel like I knew a fair amount about it even before that, but then especially from the TV show.
All right. And what about you, Geoff?
So this was a first watch for me. Obviously familiar with this movie. Know the famous quotes and everything from it. When it came to growing up, this never entered in sort of my rotation of sports movies or baseball movies. The big baseball movie for me growing up was Major League. So League of Their Own was not included with that. Same thing with like The Natural or Field of Dreams or Bull Durham or anything like that. So I've had to discover those later on. In terms of it coming out in real time, I was born 5 months before this movie came out. So yeah, I would not have had a chance to see it. My parents would not have had a chance to see it. So never really had too much of a familiarity. I didn't watch the show either on Prime Video. So I was very, very excited to check this movie out.
I forgot to mention too, before you share your history, Amanda, that this is one of my wife's favorite movies. And I never, even though it was, I've never watched it, but when she heard we were doing this, she said it was one of her favorite movies.
Oh, that's awesome.
And one she used to watch on TV all the time. What?
How rude of you to never watch the movie with her.
We
favorite
don't
movie.
really watch movies together. So
well, I'm glad that
barely have time to watch TV shows together.
All right.
I'm glad this podcast could help bring you together, strengthen your marriage. I will be really quick because I don't have a history at all with this movie. I had heard of it, didn't know who was in it, didn't know what it was about. That's about it. I knew it was about I knew there was baseball. That's all. I didn't know it was like women baseball or anything, but I just knew it was a baseball movie. So obviously I was not interested. Baseball doesn't interest me. So
whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Geoff, give us your score.
I'm going to give this the same score I gave Devil Wears Prada, a 3.5.
That was brief.
Yeah. No, it's a weird movie to talk about because I think from like a story perspective, I thought it was fine, but like the baseball scenes and sports scenes are cool. And there's some weird, I wasn't quite buying into a few of the relationship dynamics personally, but it's a feel good sports movie with an ultimately happy ending. So yeah, thought it was fine.
What about you, Ben?
I generally like baseball movies more than I like baseball. So for whatever reason, I've just always enjoyed watching baseball movies much more than watching the game itself. I liked this. I felt like some of the pacing and story was a little strange in places. Like all of a sudden I was like, oh, we're here, which we'll get into. But I did like the performances. I liked where it ended up, the way it was kind of framed with the beginning and end. I'm going to give it a 3.75.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, I didn't love this movie. Didn't hate this movie. Didn't love it. I'm going to give it a 3.
Nice. For the second week in a row, this might be the first. Ben has the highest rating out of any of us.
I'm kind of surprised. Like going into this, I thought this was going to be one of those movies that we all came out like really loving and being like, wow, I see why this movie is a classic. Like, can't believe we've missed out on this. So I was a little bit like disappointed that I knew at least Geoff and I were kind of lukewarm on it.
I thought I'd like it a little more than I did. I didn't dislike it, but I thought I'd like it a little more than I did, especially because it's from like that 1990 to 1995, which is like where all my favorite movies are from.
Right.
But it was interesting because I think, and maybe for me at least, and I know this isn't true for you two, but for me, I almost think seeing the show first kind of hurt even though I think it's probably, I think most people would probably say this is better than the show because the show was, received kind of mixed critically. And this is generally regarded as a classic. And, but I think the thing with the show was, it was 8 or 10 episodes, something like that. And so, it was a lot of lead up to like the first game with the Peaches. It was a lot of lead up to, the final game, so everything felt very, very short for me. Like all of a sudden I was like, oh, we're already playing games. And then all of a sudden, oh, we're already at the championship. And I think maybe that was a little bit of a detriment of seeing the show first.
No, it totally makes sense there. If you spread it out like that, you have the chance to get a little bit more of a relationship with like May and Doris, and even dive in a little bit more between Dottie and Kit, because even with like some of the hostilities between like Dottie and Kit as the movie progresses, it's like you don't really, I don't know. I didn't buy it 100%. I mean, I get, younger sibling, I don't want to say syndrome, but like that younger sibling sort of envy and jealousy of the older sibling. teased a little bit at the beginning and whatever, but like, you know, she made the team, she did this. It's like, I don't know. I didn't buy it personally, and I think you could explore that a little bit more in a show. And also I agree with your point there, Ben, about how this fits in with everything. I was going to say it's towards the tail end of like that mid to late 80s, early 90s baseball movies that have held up through the test of time. So movies like Field of Dreams or Bull Durham or Major League or The Sandlot all came out before this. So maybe it is just like, hey, let's slide it in there. Because I know from like a 21st century perspective, there haven't been a ton of mainstream baseball movies. I think the only notable one that I can think of, and apologies for maybe being, you know, ignorant about the subject, but is Moneyball. And that's more about a manager based on a true story kind of deal, not even sort of like a fictionalized sort of thing that has reached sort of the mainstream. And that movie was critically acclaimed, went on to get nominated for Best Picture, Brad Pitt, Best Actor, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's maybe held in that way, but again, it was well received at the box office kind of deal, and I can get the whole crowd pleasing element, especially with the lively Hans Zimmer score and the kind of realization by Jimmy that, hey, this team is worth managing and this is something to invest my time in. So I don't know.
One of the things I feel like every time we watch a movie from this era or a little before or a little after, I'm just like so amazed at how mellow they start. Like, like every movie from like even ones that are like kind of goofy or silly, like, you know, like A Liar Liar or something like that. Like they all start so mellow. And like, you know, you're at a house, this woman's like packing up a suitcase. The title comes across like mid packing, you know, like I just think about like how I feel like there's such a premium placed on how movies start now. And like even ones that ultimately are nuanced seem to start with like a little bit of a pop, you know? And like you don't see a lot of movies that are starting with an old woman packing her suitcase as gentle music is playing in the background. Yeah, and that's not even like the type of movie this is. So it's like I'm just always amazed at how 90s movies start.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The gentle music with the credits rolling in and everything as well.
Yeah, because now like they rarely even do credits at the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I guess I want to jump in with this right away. I mean, this is obviously a stacked cast.
Yes.
You know, like a lot of famous names there. Or people who maybe weren't so famous then but have become famous. I'm curious what your thoughts on Tom Hanks in this movie were.
Negative.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, he's making some odd choices here.
He really is.
But then, like, he did have a couple really funny lines too.
Yeah. Overall, I was like, now, so Geoff earlier was looking at Tom Hanks's filmography, and I couldn't tell you how many Tom Hanks movies I have seen. I feel like it's a lot, but it's probably not nearly as many as other people because I don't think I've seen a lot of his like ones from this era. So all that to say, maybe I'm not correct in what I'm about to say, but I feel like I don't frequently see him play like grouchy people, like grouchy drunk. Like I feel like he's typically more of like the gentle spirit kind of guy. And I just don't think he like did it very well. I was not vibing with him at all. I was like, I don't like this. This isn't like landing for me. It felt like he was putting on a show instead of like him actually, you know, being like that person.
It felt a little overacting, which I feel like is not what I typically think of with Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is before everything like notable that comes in his career. I mean, his career's like he's already done like big at this point in The Burbs and Turner and Hooch, but immediately after this is Sleepless in Seattle, Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, and Apollo 13. So this is like the start
of the it's a huge boom. Yeah,
right. So this is maybe he's just finding himself or trying to figure out kind of the right tone to bring, or maybe he's trying something new. I don't know, but I agree with you. I think it was odd place, especially because Gina Davis, Lori Petty, Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, they're all great and fit their characters perfectly.
And they're very grounded. They're not playing something outrageous. Like he feels like he's a little bit in a different movie.
Yeah. Even a character like even the Madonna Rosie O'Donnell dynamic, where yes, they're supposed to be playing silly, quote unquote, silly characters, or they're supposed to be kind of the crazy people on the team. They're not overacting. Like you said, Ben, very grounded, very believable, very in tune with every other sort of team performance within the movie, while given their sort of moments to shine. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you both.
The coach in the TV show is Nick Offerman.
Oh,
I could see that.
I could see him bring a natural
good.
grumpy. Yeah, I could see him bring a natural grumpy vibe to that.
Yeah. I think you're right that you almost needed like I'm trying to think of who of that time period would have been like appropriate for like to play that type of role. That kind of because it's hard to buy Tom Hanks as like a washed up drunk,
right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Right. I mean, by this point, this movie came out in 92, so he was 36 at the time. So he probably was about 34 when it came out. So I'm trying to think, if he's and back then in the 40s, baseball players were playing, like the notable baseball players, the people like him who, whatever it said at the Hall of Fame, 487 career home runs, like that is one of the greatest hitters of all time, especially given the era. He's probably, I mean, yes, he drank himself away from a career or whatever, but yeah, I wouldn't believe old, crotchety manager.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, maybe I'm thinking about it too logically from a sports sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, unless he was a phenom by like 20 whatever.
Well, I think it did say he was, because that picture of him in the Baseball Hall of Fame at the end said he was born like 1902 or something like that. So I think he's supposed to be in his 40s, the character.
And that's so unusual nowadays. Nowadays, you have older actors playing young.
Yeah.
That's a case of younger actor playing old.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
It was, I don't know. It was an unusual role for him, an unusual vibe, because I feel like the camaraderie with the women was very real and very believable and very authentic. And this felt a little cartoony.
Yeah, absolutely. Felt off.
But he did have some good lines, like when he said she looked like I loved doing the Wizard of Oz.
Didn't get that joke.
Because she looks like the wit. I thought as soon as it cut to her, I was like, she looks like the witch in the Kansas scenes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
That's what I took it as. Because as soon as it cut to her, I'm like, that's what she looks like.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, when he said that, I was like, I don't understand. But no, that makes sense. I mean, I don't really remember what she looks like, but I feel like that tracks.
Mrs. Gulch or whatever.
I will say it's funny that you said that, because it just clicked in my brain too. Like, I meant to mention this point, but to see it's almost a hilarious sort of, because I know like when the league starts and things go on, I don't want to say misogyny, if you will, of following the league, and that male fan base was very apparent, especially with Jimmy, especially whatever, and making comments like that. It's almost a weird comparison, because it's like in the beginning of the movie, well, the beginning of the flashback, we're in Oregon, which I didn't realize was going to be Oregon at the time. I must have missed the location card at the beginning, because especially with figuring out their bus route, I was like, what's happening here? But when they're watching the fast pitch softball game between, like, with Dottie and Kit there in their Lukash Dairy jerseys, like, the crowd is very supportive and cheering everybody on and not making snide comments and yelling stuff and cheering stuff and saying stuff that you would say at a baseball game, like at a normal baseball game. So I guess that acceptance of all athletes of all genders was not properly accepted across the country the same way as in Oregon, and needed to be spread across out east.
I also got the sense that in that very first game, it seemed more like a community game. So it was probably their friends and neighbors that were there. And then obviously when they were playing in these bigger stadiums, they had people from who knows where, and obviously didn't know them at all. So that could have played into it as well.
That's fair. People expecting a Major League Baseball team and getting something else would throw them off for sure.
Amanda,
Yeah.
I thought of you when there was the music montage of them having fun on the field.
I
was like,
did
Amanda
enjoy
got
that.
her music montage.
Anytime they were like having fun on the field, like I was in. It was mostly all the other stuff that I was out
Yeah.
on, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching them play baseball. Like it
Yeah.
was fun.
Yeah, solid baseball action in this movie for sure.
Yeah. And just to touch on what you had said, Geoff, about the misogyny in this movie, like I think that's a big reason why I didn't like this movie, because it just made me really sad. And I feel like it's not supposed to make you sad. Like it's probably supposed to be like, look, women are in a better position today than they were back in the 40s when everyone mistreated them and whatever. But I don't know. I don't want to get into it and get political, but it just made me sad. Is what I'll say about that.
I think that also is I think that's also I think the outlook was more hopeful in the 90s. So you could look back at that time and feel more hopeful.
Right.
You know,
Very
like
true.
and feel like, wow, you know, that was a very different time and we've come so far kind of thing. And maybe watch it in 2026, you don't have that feeling as much.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I'm like, I get that this is supposed to feel hopeful, but it doesn't right now.
Yeah. And that I think is less a problem of the film and more a problem of society.
Oh yeah, for sure.
True. I also will say I thought when this was called A League of Their Own, I thought they were just going to be fed up with all the men's bullshit and they were going to go make their own league and be like, we don't need you men because you're being mean to us and like not letting us, you know, XYZ. So I thought they were going to go start their own league. I was a little disappointed. I was like, no, ladies, rise up. Make your own women's baseball league.
I mean, I think the fact they were playing it all in the 40s.
I know. I know. It's not realistic that they would have actually been able to do that, but it would have been nice to see.
Oh, those jerseys. I appreciated the comments on the field from the baseball players about their jerseys, because having played baseball myself and having slid on a baseball diamond multiple times, I'm like, oh my gosh, those are awful for this specific scenario. I mean, obvious design in terms of who they wanted the target audience to be, but it's like, oh yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, at first I didn't even think they had shorts on underneath. It wasn't until like one point where you could like see the shorts and I was like, well, I guess at least they got shorts. But like, yeah, I mean, that's got to really like hurt your legs being exposed and doing slides like that. That's crazy. Women are badass, man.
Yeah, they are.
Is this a
Go ahead.
Sorry. So I know this is based on a story, which I thought was funny. I was like, okay, I guess it's not a book, it's a story. But like, did this actually happen?
Yes.
Like when men went to war and they had women.
There was a women's baseball league formed, yes, around wartime that went on into the 50s. This is not, and there was a team called the Rockford Peaches that was like the best team of that era, of that league. However, like the specific stories within the movie, I think are not real.
Not
right
based on that. Okay.
Which is funny because the founder of the league was Philip K. Wrigley of the real life league, who of Wrigley Gum of the Wrigley family. Yeah, at Wrigley Field. Exactly. So it's very, very funny to see like, oh, it's a candy maker is the sort of stalwart of the league and founding owner or whatever you want to call it. So very funny sort of a parallel to real life.
It ran from 1943 to 1954. Over 600 women played, and there were 10 teams all within the Midwest.
Yep.
Most successful being the Rockford Peaches.
I was going to note that about the location because of the four teams that they feature. It's like 2 of them are in Wisconsin, 1 of them is in Illinois, 1 of them is in Indiana, and they're doing their tryouts in Illinois and Chicago. So
some other team names were the Fort Wayne Daisies,
Indiana,
the Muskegon Lassies, the Grand Rapids Chicks,
Iowa. Okay. Oh my
gosh. Chicago Colleens, the Springfield Sallies, the Kalamazoo Lassies.
The Colleens. That one's ridiculous.
It had to have been.
Like, oh my gosh.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know what a Colleen is besides a name.
Let's make up some silly names for men's baseball teams.
I know as
they would never.
As they're rebranding. I know they went the lame route with like the Cleveland baseball team rebranding to the Guardians. I'm like, come on, have some fun with it.
Yeah, there were the South Bend Blue Sox to go with the Red Sox and White Sox.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Getting some more sock representation. Yeah. We love to see it.
The Kalamazoo Lassies. That's quite
a name.
Can you imagine, like, if anybody tried to name any female professional team in any league after any of those now, people would be like, what is going on?
What is happening right now?
Crazy.
That is hilarious. Because they did, last year, there was a basketball league that was founded to kind of fill in the gap after the WNBA season was done. Actually, in looming, because the Players Association of the WNBA was threatening a lockout and stuff. So it was like, oh, it's a place where players can, during the off season, maybe get a little bit extra money and whatever. But the team names there are they're very safe, if you will, because it's like, let's see, I've got the list here, but it's the Breeze Basketball Club, the Hive Basketball Club, Laces, Lunar Owls, Mist, Phantom, Rose, and Vinyl, all basketball clubs. So there's no locations tied to them or anything.
So
like
those are a lot of plural nouns that could be like they're not a lot of s's in the nouns there.
Correct, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, very, very interesting. That's kind of a common trend with a lot of sports, like new sports leagues today that we've seen, especially with maybe in like non-traditional sports, but obviously you have basketball there. But over the last just few years, we've seen a rise in a few new sports leagues, but there are no cities tied to them, or they've tried to avoid tying cities to them. Things such as the Unrivaled Basketball League, like I talked about there, the Premier Lacrosse League, they just started tying cities to team names. It started off as a very similar case where it was like Atlas, Whip Snakes, I believe was a team, Chrome, and now they've started to like tie city names to them, but they still will travel around the country to different cities. So there's like a different home team like every week or every 2 weeks.
The like Savannah Bananas kind of thing, but in kind
of like that,
but in a serious way.
Yeah, and even with the Savannah Bananas, it's like they're playing home games in like New York City or wherever. So, or I know, and I work in the sports space for additional context, sometimes in the gaming space as well. There have been some esports things. There was a Call of Duty league that was started that they tried to tie it again to cities and tried to make that a thing with like they would play most of their games in sort of like one central hub and like one central building, and then they would play like big tournaments in like other cities that are tied to these teams. It is so hard to make work and get people buying, and with the cost of everything to get something like that in there, and ownership groups not wanting to care about like, oh, we just want to keep things centralized here in a certain country, a certain part of the country, if you will. There's way too much financial risk to try to build in travel or things like that. So something like this would be very tough to pull off today, I think. Unless you have that buy-in from notable owners or what have you, and they're not gonna want to just see small bucks turned around. They want the big bucks and whatever. So yeah, something like this would be very, very hard to replicate today.
One of the I have to ask my wife, and I mentioned this before we went on air, but I know she hates John Lovitz, and I'm curious if this is the origin of that.
Well, I love John Lovitz, and I was very disappointed in this performance.
You love John Lovitz?
I like him, yeah.
Really? Oh, I can't. I find him annoying most of the time. I don't hate him with as much passion as my wife does, but
he was on my favorite mini golf TV show, Holy Moly, as Long John Lovitz.
Your favorite mini golf TV show? Do you have like a top 10?
No, I have one. I wouldn't be surprised though. You see something early enough in your life and you get that bad taste in your mouth for someone.
Yeah.
I would also like to just shout out, this movie was directed by Penny Marshall, who was famously Laverne in Laverne and Shirley. And there's 2 Laverne and Shirley actors in here, plus her brother Gary. So David Lander, who is Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley, is the announcer for the championship game, and Eddie Mecca, who is Carmine in Laverne and Shirley, is a guy at the bar in one scene.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
then her brother Gary is, I forget the character's name. He's he's the one who's based on Wrigley. He's Walter Harvey.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
so just some shout outs to that.
Yeah. Cool.
It's awesome. Yeah, speaking of just weird baseball things, I know this is shown a lot with like old-timey baseball movies, and I'm sure it was this way in real life, but having the radio announcer or somebody like that in the booth making those comments that are, I don't know if they are publicly shot out over the speakers or whatever, but hearing that, I'm like, is that just the radio and just what they're hearing? Are they actually hearing that in the stadium? Because that would be awful as a player to hear that as you're going. I'm like, no, don't make me get in my own head as this is going on.
That's a good question, because you're right. They do always have that sort of thing in the old baseball movies. I'm curious.
They do. I know with the movie, it's notable in Major League, the movie about the Cleveland baseball team with like Charlie Sheen and stuff. There's a very famous radio announcer in that movie, but it's believable that you can't really hear him in the stadium. But for something like this, where it's like, it's echoing as he is talking. So I'm like, oh, they're hearing every word he is saying. That's tough.
Yeah.
These players have to deal with enough things in their lives outside of being judged or being honestly evaluated over a radio broadcast. They have to deal with enough things. I'm like, geez.
Right.
Did you think, like, did you predict it was going to end the way it did with like the sister winning?
I did in the back of my brain, like as this was coming up, I'm like, there is no way. And this is another small thing I have with the movie is like in terms of who we focus on as a character, or if just the main character, quote unquote, is the team, where it's like the lead character needs the hero moment or should have the hero moment or whatever. But like the way it was being framed, I'm like, oh no, Kid is going to get the hero moment at the end of this movie. I was just trying to figure out how that was going to happen. And I guess I wasn't expecting her to go old school baseball and run her sister over at home plate, which you can't do. You can't do nowadays. But yeah, I was expecting her to crush a home run, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I figured she would. I will say I didn't really care. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I had too much of an emotional connection to any of these characters. And so I was like, I don't really care if Kit wins or not. Like,
right.
Doesn't matter to me.
Right.
So was the rule then, I guess, that like, because she had the ball in her hand and then the running into her made her drop the ball.
Yes. So when
like
that
you
happens,
have to hold on to the ball. Like what if she had kept the ball in her mitt, Kit would have been out?
So the rule is that when you apply a tag to a runner, whether they be sliding into a base or coming crashing in like that into home, you apply a tag and you need to secure possession of the ball. One thing that like when I was playing baseball back in the day that our coaches would always tell us is like, okay, you make the catch, you make the tag, and then you stick your glove up with the ball in it, like to show the ump, like, hey, I've got the ball. Like I've got the proof that this is here. So yes, you need to secure possession of the ball. So like back older days of baseball, when there were a lot more collisions at home plate, there were cases where it's like, you need to look for the ball. You need to see if the ball is there. Like, is it out of the catcher's glove? Is it off their person? Whatever. Nowadays, yes, you can't really have that much physical contact with the home plate. Plus, there's also a rule where for home plate, you're not allowed to block home plate if you don't have the ball. There are a lot of cases where, like in this case, Dottie is standing in front of home plate the entire time, almost forcing Kit to have to barrel into her.
Yeah.
What now has to happen is that the defensive players cannot obstruct the running path of the player in any way, especially coming to home plate. So it's like you need to catch the ball away from home plate and then bring your body across to home plate to make the tag, which makes things a lot more dramatic at home plate and in theory, reduces injuries and stuff.
Okay. That makes sense. I'm just like, it's so funny. Like all the like I know all the nooks and crannies of every NFL rule and, what constitutes a catch and all those debates. And
Mhm.
like, I just always think like, well, baseball and basketball, like they're so simple. Like they're just
Right.
but I'm sure, they've got their own intricacies. I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
you catch
absolutely.
the ball, you know what I mean? Like, but I guess I don't think about all those other things that could happen.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's very complicated. You guys have any final thoughts?
I have
I
two
think-
things. No, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go
I have
ahead.
3 things still.
Go ahead, Ben.
One, I just love 40s vibe, like the
Mhm.
bar scene. Like, man, I wish like that's how bars were now with like the live big band music and stuff. And I know that's like my old soul speaking, but just always love that when I see that in movies or TV shows. Number 2, I thought the bookend of the reunion was very nice, and a nice touch. And I thought it framed the movie very nicely. And I thought that scene with the Madonna song playing, but it was like to see the older women playing. It was a cool, like, I don't know. I thought that was a really nice ending as the
Mhm.
credits were rolling. And but I did read that like that song. Well, 2 things I read about Madonna. One, that song couldn't be on the soundtrack because of rights issues or something like that.
Mm.
Even though
Mm.
she wrote it or like did it for this movie, I'm sure it had to do with her record label versus whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then also, I read when I was reading about that, I read that Deborah Winger was originally supposed to play the Gina Davis part, and she like trained with went and like practiced and trained with the Chicago Cubs for like months,
Wow.
and then she dropped out when Madonna was cast because she didn't like that Madonna was cast in the movie.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, that's kind of like,
That's on you, honey.
yeah, and then Madonna's not bad in the movie either. Like,
Madonna's great in this movie.
yeah,
I will say,
Um,
there's Amanda and I were talking about this a little bit off air, but we were talking about the posters of this movie. We were going through some of the promotional posters of this. Like, it's very funny seeing that it's like Madonna was featured so heavily in the marketing of this movie.
I'm sure.
Like
Mhm.
the
Gina
3
Davis,
featured-
Tom Hanks, Madonna. That's it.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, Kit's getting the shaft again.
yeah, yeah. And then the last thing I was gonna say is, I know he's supposed to be this way, but that little kid has to be one of the most annoying little kids ever.
Holy crap, I needed to punch that kid in the face so bad. I'm so happy. The scene where Jimmy threw his glove in the kid's face.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was Tom Hanks' best moment.
oh great.
It really was. When he first showed up with the chocolate on his face, I was like, okay, Augustus Gloop, like, settle down.
Yeah,
For
I did
real.
like the older version of him though, because it very much felt just like the same person.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But nice to see him be
Absolutely.
like, yeah, I was
annoying. Yeah.
Thanks for putting up with me, ladies. I'm a well-adjusted adult now.
I promise.
Geoff, anything else?
I think one thing I wanted to bring up was probably my least favorite of the lines and storylines of this movie was and this is just again buying into everything about like girls can't play baseball or it's just about their looks or whatever, but the scene where the scout, where John Lovitz, I forget his first name, I think it was like Ernie or something, is talking to Marla's dad, or Marla's dad is talking to him being like, don't blame my daughter for my mistakes, like it's not her fault that she looks. I'm like, shut up. No.
Yeah.
Stop. No. I know the point of this is to like look back and whatever and talk about this, but I'm like, dude, you seem like a pretty darn good dad just from this 10 seconds of whatever. I assume you're a decent father figure. Don't do this. Please don't put yourself down. Like I said, I know you're trying to prop up your daughter or whatever, but like, I hated
Yeah.
that so much.
Yeah.
The baseball, like I said, baseball scenes were great. Loved kind of the back and forth action with everything. I think that a lot of the stunt work too. Like I liked how Dottie inspired all of the girls to try to make it exciting or bring that kind of Savannah Bananas element to it, if you will. This is almost like something where it's like, I'm sure, you know, if you watch the Savannah Bananas game on TV, or like Amanda and I have done, we've gone to one in real life. A lot of the similar sort of stuff happens during one of those. So very, very cool to see that element sort of brought into the game. And like, how do we make this more exciting? How do we make this sellable? So I thought a really, really great sort of comparison there. And then just quick little shout out. There are a few baseball players I thought of in terms of comparisons to some of the players here. So for the maybe 2 people that listen to us that are into sports, shout out to Dottie. I immediately thought of Twins catcher Joe Mauer, recently retired, probably even players today, Cal Raleigh is the obvious sort of comparison. A power hitting catcher like Piazza, classic. Kit, I think that she probably a great comparison for her would be like, I don't want to say Pedro Martinez, because Pedro Martinez is celebrated as one of the greatest pitchers of the sort of my era of baseball, if you will, the millennial era of baseball, but probably the best comp. Very emotional, exciting personality to pair with pretty talented pitching, and could go long distances in games and often would push themselves very, very far. I think that is a great comparison. And then with May, definitely a speedster. So want to give a big shout out to probably modern comps would be like a Billy Hamilton or Ricky Henderson, who's the greatest base stealer of all time. And then sort of that power hitting hitter for Doris, that power hitting sort of infielder, third baseman, if you will. I know he didn't play third base, but David Ortiz, great comp, recently retired. You'll see him a lot on Fox. If we want to go really old school, we go like, Mike Schmidt, if you will. So some noticeable comps and things that I remember from back watching a lot of baseball that I'm like, oh, this player is like them, or Dottie's like this, or May is like this. So very fun to see those sort of parallels in the movie itself. So yeah, I think the baseball itself in this movie was great.
Cool. Ben, why don't you give us our TV recommendations for this week?
Sure. Well, one of them is pretty obvious. It is A League of Their Own, the Amazon Prime Video series from 2022. Like I said at the beginning, it was renewed for a 4-episode final season, second and final season, but then that ended up getting scrapped when the strikes happened. But it is set in the 40s as well. In addition to kind of the story from the movie, though, it also has a lesbian element that's kind of pervasive throughout, as well as a story about an African-American female league too. And it's from Abby Jacobson and Will Graham. Includes, like I mentioned, Nick Offerman as the coach. Darcy Carden is in it. There's a really excellent performance from, I'm going to butcher her name, but Bemisola Ikamelo. She's excellent in it. Abby Jacobson is the star. She's kind of playing the sort of the Gina Davis type role. They're not named the same characters as in the movie, but there's very similar types. Mm-hmm. And it's actually a really good series. It's very it looks great. Like, it's very, the high production values. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. Like, I think it deserved a little better in terms of attention. It kind of didn't really do much, and I think it was one of those things where, like, purists for the film didn't like all the new angles they were taking, but you have to do that if you're planning an ongoing TV series. But it critically, like with reviews, it did quite well. It just didn't find an audience, and it was kind of a miracle it even got that second season that ended up being scrapped. But I enjoyed it, and I think it's worth checking out. The other recommendation is an early 90s show, just like same time period as this movie, but also set in the 40s, called Homefront, which features a young Kyle Chandler, among others. And it was an ABC drama that ran for 2 seasons, set in 1945 in Ohio, and it deals with men coming back from the war and kind of the dynamics that changed from the women who had been in the workforce and were now kind of forced to go back to the home. It's kind of the overarching theme of it. And then it's just kind of a family drama from there. It's got some kind of, you have to kind of get used to like that early 90s TV drama sensibility that is a little bit different from TV dramas now. But there's a lot of good, you don't see like a gloriously, I mean, it's like a cast of like 20 people, and it's just like the opening credits run like a minute and a half to get all the names in there, and it's like one of those like big budget, things that you don't see on network TV anymore. This would definitely be like a 6-episode streaming series now, but it was a show that did 20 something episodes a year, and it was, very acclaimed, but short run because it didn't get mass audience. It's not available anywhere. I actually got a bootleg DVD. I ordered a bootleg DVD off of that, and that's how I have seen Homefront. I think some episodes are on YouTube, but it's an interesting show, and it's got a really fun theme song.
Cool. Thank you. Geoff, what are your movie recommendations?
I've got a lot. Not a lot. I would say more than I usually do. So the first category I have is baseball movies from the 80s and 90s that channel sort of the similar themes to this. So you have the sort of glossy-eyed looking back at baseball in this light and one of your favorite times of your life that is present in The Sandlot. You have the small town baseball vibe of maybe a minor league setting like in Bull Durham. You have the element of we got to prove it to ownership that we're worth it and everything that is present in Major League. So I think a lot of these 80s and 90s baseball movies do have similar themes that kind of stretch across it that make baseball so fun and beautiful, especially as a sport to make into a movie. So that's category 1. Number 2, I have The Replacements, another sports movie from the late 90s, early 2000s, starring Keanu Reeves and a number of other people, about a football team of former pros or college players or non-NFL players that step up to fill in the gap during a player's strike or during a lockout, if you will. And it's about their camaraderie, about coming together as a team, sort of a schlocky sports movie, if you will. And I loved this movie so much growing up. I watched it maybe a few years ago and still had a great time with it. The Replacements would be a good, fun one to pair with this. Number 3 is Thelma and Louise. Just to see Gina Davis in sort of a prominent role, especially in a movie around this period of time. Her and Susan Sarandon together in the Ridley Scott classic. And then number 4 is tying this in with the 21st century, specifically the 2020s. And the movie I'm picking is EFIS. EFIS was one of my top 10 movies of 2025. You can find it on the Mubi streaming service. You can probably also rent it. It's about a small town in New England that is playing its final senior league baseball game at a diamond before that diamond is closed and torn down to have new buildings be put in. So that kind of small town baseball vibe and kind of reliving, living out your glory days and everything brings back that sort of old charm of baseball that's very present in this movie, looking back on it. So love that movie very, very much. So those would be my movie recommendations to pair with A League of Their Own.
Great. Thank you. All right. Well, it's time to move into our top 4. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we are doing our least favorite things about baseball. I feel like we just talked a lot of good things about baseball. We all liked the baseball sequences and everything. So now it's time to say what we don't like about the sport. So Ben, why don't you go first?
All right. I guess I'll start off by saying that I'm not a big baseball fan. I do like baseball movies, as I mentioned, but it's not like I'm not like offended by it. It doesn't like hurt me or make me angry or like it doesn't do anything to make me mad. I just, it's just not my thing. I've never really been big into baseball. So I actually struggled to come up with this list because I was like, I don't love baseball, but there's not a lot I hate about it. So anyway, but I did my best here. Number 4, when baseball fields and NFL fields used to share. I hated watching NFL games when they were on a baseball field and you'd see the brown dirt from the, the baseball diamond. Oh, it looks so bad. The Raiders used to have it. I think Miami used to have it. There were quite a few teams in the 90s that did. And it was so painful to watch in football games.
Tough luck.
So little thing, but it's irritating. And obviously it doesn't happen anymore. Number 3, I put steroids because I feel like football has kind of become America's game since in the last 25, 30 years. And I think, a lot of that is the NFL just becoming what it's become. But I also think baseball took a serious hit to its reputation with that. And I think, that made it stop feeling like kind of the game kids had played for generations and kind of added a new element to it that, kind of took, you think back to that Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. I remember that even though I wasn't a baseball fan. And then all these Barry Bonds and all that stuff coming out later about the steroids, I think kind of tainted the game. Not that I am like a purist about the game, but just as an observer. Number 2, chewing tobacco. I don't want to be a prude, and I certainly would never do it myself, but I don't even like seeing it. It grosses me out to no end. Mm-hmm. Just I don't want to be around it. I don't even want to see it on TV. No, thank you. And then number 1, how long baseball is. I've gone to, I think, maybe 2 professional baseball games, plus a few minor league games with the Buffalo Bisons. And I know that, some people like Geoff might argue with me on this. I don't know. But I just find I like an inning or 2. And then I'm like, okay, all done. It just feels like they go on forever and ever and ever and ever. And that's, that's, I think, the main reason that I've never gotten into baseball. I remember long little league games of my brothers back in the day when I wasn't working the snack stand, which was my favorite thing to do. And I find it it's like repetitive to me too, in the sense of like, I don't know, like with football, like those games are long too, and there's lots of time in between plays, but it feels like we're heading in a direction. This feels like we're just going in circles, literally, or diamonds, shall we say. So that's my number one.
All right.
Sorry, Geoff.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that baseball, I think it was 2 seasons ago, maybe 3 seasons ago, instilled a pitch clock. So pitchers only have a certain amount of time to throw pitches. Batters cannot exit the batter's box. They only have a certain number of timeouts. Time is very, very limited. And the average game is now under 3 hours. So
call me when they go to 3 innings.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a little extreme.
We'll do a second inning stretch.
Okay. Geez. All right. Baby
Tell
steps.
us how you really feel, Ben.
Baby steps.
All right, Geoff, let's hear your rebuttal.
Okay. So my honorable mention, actually, I do have a very funny honorable mention. So you talked about steroids. My honorable mention and the worst things about baseball is the vilification of players in the steroid era. Because
that's fair too. I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Barry Bonds needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't care what anybody says. I know that's a hot take. Roger Clemens needs to be in the Hall of Fame. A-Rod needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't care what anybody says. Steroid era baseball was fun, dang it. They were hitting moonshots. I don't care. Listen, okay, so Barry Bonds needs to be in the Hall of Fame, period. So whatever. And then also another honorable mention was getting hit by pitches. It was just not fun. Don't want to get beamed. Don't want to get beamed by a fastball. No, that's just not cool. So all that kind of stuff. So my number 4 is the late April to mid-June stretch during the baseball season. There's a lot of excitement around opening day. We're right in the heart of it right now as this episode's being released. There's a lot of excitement around opening day. There's a lot of joy about going to the ballpark during the summertime. There's excitement about the playoff stretch come, late August, September, whatever. There's this really awkward stretch between late April and mid-June, which is just like, okay, like I'm good. I'll wait until the next big thing comes around, which is a bad thing to say as someone who doesn't necessarily have a team. Like I loosely follow the Yankees. I loosely follow the Nationals, but it's so hard to keep that momentum going. It's kind of awkward to go to the ballpark because it's not quite summer just yet. There are higher chances for rainouts. There's not as much shine towards the baseball season that there was on opening day. It's just awkward that I'm like, I'm kind of checked out a little bit, even as someone who loves baseball. So that's my number 4. My number 3 are the prices for ballpark food. And I know this is just a general sort of thing for sporting events as a whole, not just baseball, but I'm going to become an old man here for a second. One of my things that I loved about baseball during our episode where we talked about the Sandlot, one of my things I liked the most about baseball was ballpark food and the uniqueness that's applied to it. How much I have to pay for it, they get it. They know that people will buy this weird stuff. So guess what, y'all? It's going to be however much, and which is annoying. Like, it's lame. I'm like, come on, I don't want to have to pay $45 for my sandwich and a beer. Okay, I'm an old man, sure, when I say like that, but no, just no. Number 2, umpires. Now, it's a hard job. I get it. Hard job to be a ref in any sport, hard job to be an umpire in any sport, but come on, dog. Let's get the calls right. And I know that it's hard to see those fast pitches coming in and making those judgment calls or trying to get things right at the plate or when runners are going into bases, but it's annoying, especially if you've played and you're like, come on, get that call right or whatever. They've now instilled a automated balls and strikes system where batters can essentially challenge, and pitchers can challenge if a pitch is a ball or a strike, like if the ump gets it wrong. And teams have a limited number of challenges, like in football, where if you get it right, you can just keep going. But if you get it wrong, you're done, kind of deal. So it's a fun little thing. I'm excited to see it play out. And then number one, as someone who played baseball, striking out. Nothing is worse. It's an awful feeling. It's horrible. There's a very vivid memory I have where I played prep league baseball, and I was an okay player. I was fine. I was one of those guys who would get a hit every game, but would be benched for half the. It's one of those where it was like those rotating leagues where like everybody got the chance to play, but I was one of the guys who was always rotated in every 3 innings, where it's like, okay, I'm in for innings 1 through 3, and then I'll sit 4 through 6. There was one game where I played every inning, and I was doing really well. I was like 3 for 3 at the plate, had a triple, a couple singles, drove in a couple runs, was great, and I had a chance to win the game. And as the final batter with 2 outs left in the bottom of the 6th, we win 6 innings. Runner on third, and I struck out, and it was the worst feeling in the world. So striking out, never a good feeling. Never a great thing to see if you're a fan of your team and you see a batter strike out. Great if you're the fan of the pitcher or whatever. But especially when you're playing, it's tough. So yeah, striking out, my number one.
Thanks for processing your trauma with us.
Thank you. It was a very nice therapy session here, everybody. I really appreciate the time. There's a big stretch in our recording here of me just talking.
All right. Well, similar to Ben, I'm not a huge baseball fan. I've been to more games than you have been, but it's mostly because Geoff drags me along.
You're welcome.
I thoroughly enjoyed when we saw the Savannah Bananas last year and actually watched some of their games on TV during the season as well, which just speaks volumes to how much I actually enjoyed it, because I would never with real baseball. But it's kind of like, I like the comparison Geoff made at the time, that Savannah Banana baseball is similar to like TikTok. Like they're constantly, it's like you're constantly scrolling through a feed. They're constantly doing something different, some new trick. They're playing a song. Oh, now they're doing this. Then they're doing that. And I'm like, I'm not even on TikTok. So I'm like, I can't say I have TikTok brain.
Or
it's
scrolling through reels on Instagram kind of deal.
Yeah. So anyways, so my honorable mention is the fact that this is a summer sport, and we live near DC. It gets very hot here in the summer. So I pretty much refuse to go to baseball games that take place between like June and August, and even September and May can be iffy. But specifically, if we're going to a baseball game, we're usually going to see the Nationals just because it's easier to get to than the Orioles. And whoever built the National Stadium was such an idiot. They made all the seats dark blue. And the number of times I've burned the back of my legs trying to sit down on a scorching hot seat in shorts.
Oh, the first game,
too many to count.
The first game we ever went to was like a July or August game. They were doing a promo with their Shake Shack and the thing. So we were like, oh yeah, we'll get some tickets. We'll get a food coupon, whatever. No joke, it was like 110 degrees. And we sat there for like an inning. We're like, yeah, we're burnt. Like our legs were legitimately burning. They had cooling stations set up everywhere. And the stadium, it was like, this was nuts.
It's rough. And, I appreciate that baseball stadiums typically have very beautiful views of the cities where they are placed, but they also have very little shade. And it's just a rough combination. My number 4 on my list is rain delays. I mean, baseball is long-y freaking enough as it is. And then you're going to tell me it's going to rain a little bit. I mean, okay, I know that it's mostly just when it gets serious, but like, I'm also a little scarred from that because one time we had to sit through a rain delay for a really long time and it was so painful. So I hate that. Number 3 is the fact that the baseball season is so long. This doesn't really affect me because I'm not a fan, but like if I was a fan, like how am I supposed to care about these games? Like so many of them just don't matter. And it just kind of feels like, I don't know. I feel like when you go watch a baseball game, like it's not ever that exciting because it's like, I don't know, you've got 50 more games left to play. And it's like, well, anything can happen. Who knows? This game doesn't matter. So that sucks.
Hear that, NFL? Like, we don't need more games.
Oh,
I'd be okay with like 1 or 2 more games in the NFL, but
well, you'll probably get your wish.
You'll get your wish, Amanda.
Obviously, nowhere near the amount of like baseball and hockey. Like, baseball's in its own league. Let's just put it
Yeah,
that
don't
way.
take shots at hockey with
They're
this.
all in their own leagues.
Oh no.
All right. My number 2, I kind of already said this, but the games are slow. They're long. 9 innings is a long time. It generally takes a really long time to get there.
Did you hear that, everybody? Amanda with her TikTok brain. Process Savannah Bananas. But
no, it just takes a really long time. And it's because of my number 1, which is the fact that there's so little action in baseball. There's half the time there's nothing exciting to look at. It's kind of similar to like soccer when you're like, oh my God, they actually scored a goal in soccer. And it's like, wow, you could go a whole game without anyone like scoring any points. But at least in soccer, they're like running around and it's like more interesting. Like people are constantly like taking possession, whatever. Baseball is just, there's hardly anything there.
I'm with you, man, on that. And I know Geoff is just shaking his head, but like, yeah, like hockey, and soccer are low scoring things too, compared to like, football or whatever, but at least like they're nonstop. Right.
Exactly. And like with baseball,
guys, Geoff has left the podcast. he's gonna start his own podcast.
He's trying so hard to hold his tongue.
He's so angry.
Oh, keep going.
No, it's just like whenever I go to baseball games, I always struggle to actually watch the game. As hard as I try, I'm watching the scoreboard. I'm watching people 2 rows in front of us do something. I'm,
going to the snack stand like 10 times.
Yeah. And like, I'm not even most of the time like zoning out on my phone. I'm just like watching everything else. And I think I listed that as like a pro of baseball when we did our list. It's like, oh, there's so much to like see and do. And they, do have little entertainment bits and everything, which is nice. But yeah, I have to like try really hard to actually pay attention to the game because there's just so little action to pay attention to.
Okay. So I'm going to.
You may speak.
So 2 things. 1, there is not that much scoring in football. The scores are very deceiving. Okay. They score maybe like 8 times a game. Okay. Ooh. Oh, okay. Like the average baseball, they score that many times in baseball. Ooh. And also, do you know how little football actually happens in football?
Oh, I know.
There's so little football that happens in football.
It's different. It's just different.
Oh, I get it. Yes, I get it. It's different. I know it's different. But there's so little football in football. And also, don't bash hockey for whatever. No bashing of hockey. Hockey is the most fun sport to watch. Okay?
I wasn't bashing hockey.
You're not bashing it. You're not bashing it. I know. I'm just saying.
I only said something about the number of games, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So relax. And the scoring, that it's a low scoring sport. But
all right.
It's fine. It's fine that you like baseball. You're allowed to like it.
Thank you.
Some people
Thank
do.
you, Amanda.
I'll add another thing to my list, ad hoc. The people that care way too much about baseball and they come with their little scorecards and their little cheat sheet things that they keep track of the whole time. And
now this is getting personal.
No, this is why they're annoying because they always like, you can tell they're just miserable because everyone else around them is having fun and they just want to like focus on the game and write their things down. And they're like, stop shouting at these things. What are these people doing?
It's like me at a Broadway show. Shut up. Stop having fun. Stop screaming. Stop singing along.
Fun fact, I was that guy back in the day. I was that guy who at Buffalo Bison's games, they've got little score sheets at their like customer support or general service stand when you walk into the ballpark. And I used to grab one and a little pencil before every Bison's game that I used to go to growing up. And I kept the score at every Bison's game. So.
And I wasn't talking about you. We have,
sure.
We have encountered a couple nasty people over the years who just take baseball way too seriously and can't stand that people have fun.
Nope, I get it. Nope. You're good. I get what you're saying there for sure. I was just being silly. But yes, agreed.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our discussion on A League of Their Own. If you would like to watch along with us, next week we will be watching Saving Private Ryan. So
sticking in World War II, sticking with Tom Hanks.
Yeah. A little bit of a vibe shift,
Yeah.
though. I think.
Taking a little bit of a turn, you know.
Help you guys prep for Disclosure Day coming out in June. So a little Spielberg action.
There you go. So be sure to watch along and tune in. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a rating or review, and be sure to follow us on all our social channels. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see y'all next week.
To infinity and beyond!
Why so serious?
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.